Okay. Okay, so let me quickly start over. So we were going through since we started recording. So this is a quick syllabus. We went through defining variable data types, and then next lecture we went through arrays and array methods, and then we went through object, and then mixing objects and arrays and scope. Now we are here. So next 3 classes we'll go through some basic. Today, we can quickly go through the IfElse, for loop, and things like that. And I'll show you some tricks on there as well. And you're also going to find a fun way to manage your arrays as well. And then we'll move to functions and callback functions, stuff that you really need to manage inside React. Then we'll move to flex layout, so you can get your HTML, quick HTML knowledge, right? And then we go to React, understand how to manage state, which is the most important part. You'll find React to be very much easier to deal with compared to normal JavaScript. If you think of JavaScript as a silly putty, right, where you get the dough, right, and then you build stuff different shape. Yes, you can do really weird kind of shapes, but if you have a Lego, React is a Lego, right? All the shapes are built for you. You just have to plug them in, and you can build a lot of different things, right? So that's the difference. And then we'll go through some event, so you can click on buttons and different kind of, if you change into input box, what happens. You can pass things to the event. So if I click on something, I want something to be done, I can pass some variable into it. You'll know when you actually start coding. You can condition render, which means if I want to, let's say I'm playing a game, right? And I say I have a start button. When I click on a start button, the button's supposed to disappear, and then something else supposed to show up, right? It's called conditional rendering. So we're going to look at that. Mapping is like if you want to repeat something, right? If I want to build like 5 different things or a table or something like that, I don't want to build those things as redundant. You just should be able to build it such that you write a loop, which I'm calling mapping, and that should I can say, oh, build 1,000 of these things, right? You should be able to do that. Okay, and then we're going to go to something very important called use effect. This is how you manage. Again, if I try to tell you what it is right now, it's going to be, you're not going to be able to grasp the concept because we haven't learned it. But something to use effect is sort of like doing things when your page is updated and things like that, right? It's very powerful. And you can do a lot with it. And then in meanwhile, we're going to start understanding how to build games, right? So not only we're going to understand this technology, but we're also going to build smaller examples where you can just play around with it, right? And then we'll build some, we'll start with a game, right? And then I think the next phase would be building a game. I pick one game where we work on that together. It could be tic-tac-toe. It could be, I don't know, rock, paper, scissors, or it could be something complex, right? So the rest of the class is about, building something so you can see it. And then on parallel, I'll give you some project, or you can pick a project and start working on it, right? So yeah, this is here for your reference. If you want to take a look at it, if something that you wanted to be covered and I'm not covering, let me know so I can support that as well. All right, any questions on this? All right, so let's start with then. So fundamentals of, so this stuff, how many of you are familiar with if-else statement and loops? This way, I don't, this is some programming basics. I can really go through it very quickly, or I can go into detail, depends on where, what's your knowledge. Maybe just write in the chat your knowledge, like, between 1 and 10. If you don't know, you just put 1. If you know, if else statement and for loops we've done in Java or some other language, put 10, right? Or put somewhere in between. So this way I would know how much time I want to spend on it. Okay. All right, I got most of you. So there are some people who are pretty new. So, all right. All right, so let's, I mean, the concept is pretty simple. If-else statements are when you want to make some decisions. Okay, let's make a decision. When I was little, I had this game, I forgot the name of it now. Oh, Mario, is it Mario? Yeah, Mario game, right? Everyone was playing Mario, and I wanted to buy the Nintendo, but I never had enough money. It was very expensive. I was in India, very expensive. So I asked my mom for money, and she said no, right? But I really wanted to buy that, so I had to make a decision. How do I do that, right? How do I buy something that I don't have enough money for? So if I were to do something like this, let's build that logic in here. If an else statement, it's probably one of the most used things in any programming. Okay, and then they have, every programming language has a little different syntax, but the concept is pretty much the same. And it's the decision that you make in your day-to-day life, right? So I'm gonna write in pure English first. Let's say I want to buy a game. Right? The cost is $100. Just making it up, right? And I have $0, right? Right now. So let's translate this into coding. I can say let cost equal to 100. We're not going to put dollar. Assume that everything is in dollar. Okay. Let's call it this. I have equal to 0, which means I have nothing. Right. Okay. So if I can buy this game with this amount of money, I would print out I can buy. If I can't buy it, then I would print out I can't buy, right? So if-else statement is pretty simple. You have an if, and then within that if statement, you compare things, okay? And it will result in a true or false, okay? So remember, we looked at the comparison operator, and the way before I do that, let's look at a comparison operator. Comparison operator is basically, you will put two things, and then between there will be an operator. So I can say cost, let's say, is it equal to 100? If it's true, then this would result in true. So if I console log, let me just change this behavior so that it doesn't constantly keep running. Okay, it says true. Remember the triple equal sign? This means compare right and compare left. If they are equal, the answer is true. If it's not equal, then the answer is false. That's it. It's a Boolean thing, right? If I say cost equal to what I have, then the answer is going to be false, right? Because the cost is 100 and what I have is 0. So if I run this, it will be false. Or I can say, if I want to buy a game, I don't have to have exactly $100. It could be 100 or more, right? So the logic I want to have is, if I just put 100 and if I have 200, this will give me false. But what I want to say, if greater than equal to what I have, right? Oh, sorry, my bad. If cost is less than equal to what I have, which means I can have exactly the same amount as cost, or I can have more money. In either condition, I can buy. But if I have a less than the cost, then I cannot buy. If I have a $99, I cannot buy this game, right? So let's look at this logic. Obviously, it's still going to say false because I don't have enough money. I think it just, I always forget that there's no. Anyway, so less than equal to, this is false. So if I increase this to, let's say 100, which means now it's supposed to be true, right? Which means I have more than the cost. If I, or equal to cost right now. But if I say 101, this still be true because what I have is still less than equal to cost. And I can keep increasing, right? Let's say if I have a lot of money, it will be still true, right? So this is the logic. So this result in true or false. And based on that, I can make a decision. So the if statement is basically, I can say if this is true, right? Then there will be a curly bracket and I can say, let's console log this. I can buy, right? Right now, this is true. So it's gonna say I can buy. But if I put here $99 and run this, nothing's gonna happen. Let me clear this first. Nothing's gonna happen because I haven't really, this only checks one condition, which means, do I have more equal to or more than what the cost is, right? If I want to check, what if it's a less than what I have? I don't have to say, I can just say else, which means I have less, right? Because I've covered 100 and more, which means the only other condition left is less than 100. That's it, right? So I don't have to say what it is. I'm just going to say less, else. And if I say console log, I can't buy. And else is almost like if I'm in the house. So if I knock on somebody's doors, and if I say, is this person in home? And they say, yes, right? Then it's true. Is this person not home? Yes, which means this person is somewhere else. Where that person is, we don't really care. It's just not home, right? So home, not home, right? That's it. Where that person is, like how much money do I need? Do I have? So I can't buy. It really doesn't matter, right? So for every other scenario, we'll just say this person cannot buy this, right? So let's run this. And it would say can't buy. It doesn't matter what I do. If I have $1, it will say can't buy. -1, can't buy. When I go over 100 and over, it will say can buy, right? So any question on this one? This is probably, if you learn two things, I would say in any programming language that you need to learn. One is if-else statement. You need to understand thoroughly, and then for loops. If you can make decision and repeat something, This is a fundamental of all programming. Obviously, there are classes and all that other stuff, but everywhere you almost, I would say, 60–70% of your code is going to be either you are making decision or you're repeating something. Okay. Let's look at another situation. Let's say I have $0. Make sure you type, write this down. I'm going to give you a minute to just type this and, play around with it. Make sure you open CodePen and just type it in. Okay, so another situation is I don't have any money, right? But I still want to buy this game. How is it possible? For a kid who really wanted to buy a game, everything is possible. He just had to try a different way, right? So let's change this so that we can buy with even with the $0. How can we do that? So the first situation we compare. Do I have enough money for this? The answer is no, right? I don't have enough money. Okay, so what are we gonna do if we don't have enough? If I have enough money, then obviously I can buy. This condition always remains the same. But if I don't have enough money, I don't want to be disappointed. I'm just gonna say, okay, let's ask mom. Okay, so I'm going to introduce another variable here. Mom gives some money, right? Right now, let's just say $0. So if I don't have money, I'm just going to ask if what I have, because now let's say it is possible that I have like $5 in my, in my bank account somewhere, right? And then I ask the remaining from mom. So I would say if what I have, let's say cost is less than equal to what I have and plus what mom gives, right? If this is true, then great, I can buy this game, right? Right? If I want to write this, then I would write in a different way, not like this. What I would do is I would create another situation. I would say else if, and we'll put this inside here. Right? If this is the situation, then I can still buy. All right. Else, I can say console log, I will cry, right? Which means I cannot buy. So let's examine this situation. Right now it says I will cry because I don't have any money. My mom did not give any money. Let's change this situation. I have $10 and mom gives me $90, right? It's sufficient to buy me a game, right? I can buy. So first condition will not go in because this is false. Remember, if and else, all it checks is true or false. If this is going to be true, then it's going to go inside here and then it stops. That's the most important thing. If else statements is designed so that once it meets a condition, it does not check anything else, right? If this is true, it runs this and it does not check anything else. If it's false, then it checks a second condition. If this is false, then it will go here, right? In this case, what's going to happen? Do I have enough money? The answer is no. So it's going to go here. Do I have enough money with my money and my mom's money? The answer is yes. So it's going to go inside here and it will never hit this, right? So that's the key to understand. If else statement is it stops once you meet the criteria and it's true. Always have else to cover any other situation, right? It's like Jimmy's home. No, he's not home. He's outside, right? So that's everything else, every other situation. Okay. So this is if, and else, right? In life, the things are not that simple, black and white. And for that, you have else if. Okay. So that's in a nutshell, I would say, if and else if really works. Okay, it's pretty simple, but what you wanted to do is, you want to play around with it and make sure that you understand it thoroughly, right? Create scenarios. You can also ask another variable. Have your dad give you money if your mom doesn't give you enough money, right? And maybe ask your uncle, it doesn't matter, but your objective is to buy a game, and no matter what happens, it doesn't stop you from doing things what you want to do. Just like in life, right? If somebody says, I don't have any money, I'm going to stop doing things, then that person is not going to be successful. All right. Okay, so that's if else statement. There's also a switch statement, which we're not going to go into. I think anything you can do a switch statement, you can do with if else statement. So I'm not going to go. But if for curiosity, if you want to learn, you can go learn that. There's actually an interesting shorthand. Well, let's just skip the shorthand. What I want to do is fast forward things such that you just learn all the basic stuff in JavaScript. Otherwise, this class would last too long. All right, so now let's look at the for loop. Why do we need for loop? For loops are basically things that you want to repeat in life. You would use for loop. For example, when I was in school, teacher used to, if you do something wrong, or I don't know, make noise during the class, teacher would say, go on the board and then just write, I am sorry, like 1,000 times, right? And it's kind of it's really cumbersome because boring repeating things, right? I wish I had this kind of a tool where I can just write things within a few seconds. So if I were to write, I am sorry, I would have to say console log, I am sorry, right? But if I want to say this, write this 1,000 times, right? If I run this, obviously it says this one time. If I want to say this 1,000 times, what do I need to do that, right? So I need to know, because 1,000 is basically a range from 1 to 1,000, right? So I want to start from 1 and I want to count to 1,000. And every time I want to say, right, I'm sorry, right? So that's what it is. So for loop is pretty simple. It's a standard for loop. The original, this style of for loop was invented in C. And then it got into Java, and then JavaScript also has the same for loop. And it's pretty simple. You have for loop where you start from where you want to start from, right? So you create a variable called let I equal to, let's say 1, and then you have a semicolon. Okay, so you start. So the structure of this for loop is start, end, and step. Okay, so this is my starting. I'm starting from 1. What am I ending? I'm ending at thousands, right? So I can say I less than equal to 1,000. So you don't say end, you can say until when you want to run this. So you can say while I is less than equal to 1,000, between 1,000 or less, I want to repeat this. Once it hits 1,000, the next cycle will not execute because it's going to go over 1,001, right? Over 1,000, which will be 1,001. So that's how you say. You can say while I equal to 1 and I is less than, what do you want to do? And the step is basically, I can actually skip every other step, right? But in this case, the step's going to be 1. So I can say I equal to I plus 1, which means I want to increment I by 1 every time. So I start with 1. Next time I'm going to go to 2, next time 3, next time 4, and so on and so forth, right? So I start with 1. I check, is it less than 1,000? Yes. Okay. Then execute this. And once it's executed, increment it by 1, basically. Then I would say console log, I'm sorry. Instead of 1,000, let's just do 10 so we can see it actually. Otherwise, it becomes too large. Okay, so it prints, sorry, 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. All right. And that's it. This is how you can basically, you can create any situation. Let's give you, okay, let's print I instead. I am sorry. And I'm going to put, let's say, I'm going to put some index to it. So I can say, I plus. We're going to put index, which means it's going to say 1, I am sorry, 2, I am sorry, and so forth. Okay, and I'm going to give you some exercise. All right, so it says, okay, why is it said the first? Okay, let me clear this. It should never, it should always have a number in front. Okay. Why there's no number in the front for the first time? Oh, because of this guy. My bad. Okay, so I want you to use this to build the following. This number right now, it starts from 1, right? 1 and 2 and 3. I want you to start in the range of, let's say, 4 to 9. Okay, so we'll say 4, I am sorry, 5, I'm sorry, 6, I'm sorry, 7, I'm sorry, 8, and 9. Second thing, which, so this would be, let's just type it in, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The second one I want you to do is 1, 3, 5, 7. So it skips every other. And another one I want you to do is 2, 4, 6, and 8. All right. You just have to play around with this, guys, this to achieve that. All right. Send me a private message once you're done in the chat. Any question on this one? Did you get the question? And then remember, there are no dumb questions, which means if you don't understand, always stop and just ask questions. Okay. It's worse to assume things, right? Okay, so the question is, when I run this, you know what? Let's just remove I am sorry. So right now, if I run this, it will print 1 to 10, right? So it starts from 1 and it prints 10. I want you to change this algorithm 3 different times. First time it will run 4 to 9. So it would print 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then change it again. That will print 1, 3, 5, 7. So it skips every other number. Next time you do 4, all the even number between 4 and 8. So I want you to change this 3 different times and then run it and make sure that you get the desired result. Okay. Oh, you could get infinity if you say it could, if once you get in infinity, and it could, if I ask somebody to say, okay, take one step and then stop after you reach X building, right? But if that person starts walking in the other direction, he or she will never reach that building because the building is not there, right? And so this is our building, right? So make sure that you have this condition. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's going to keep going forever because it doesn't know where to stop because the condition that you've defined, it's never going to meet. If I say less than -1 or something, okay, so that's the first one. Okay. And just give me the for loop. Just copy this part only in the message once you get it, right? All right. Yeah, I think most of you are getting it. Good. Yep. Yeah, you can also use I++ as well. I show you like this because it makes more sense right now, but there's another operator called I++, which will do the same thing, right? All right, I think most of people got it, right? I'll still give you a few minutes. Yep. Yeah, this will let you, you need to modify any of these, right? So. Okay. Yeah, I think pretty much all of you got it right. You can change starting point, right? So if I, in this case, I want to start from 4 and end at 9, right? So I'm just going to simply change 4 to 9. That's it, right? And if I clear this and run it, okay, it's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good. If I want this one, I know I need to start from 1. So I start from 1 and I want the last number to be 7. So I put 7. And then I'm jumping 1 every time, right? So instead of 1, this would be 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7, right? So that's how you do it, right? This one is you start from 2. And then this is 8. And yeah, this should remain the same because 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6, right? All right. Okay, I'm going to give you a tough one now. Let's see how many of you get it. I want to print 1, 3, 9. 1, 3, 9. Yeah, 1, 3, 9. How do I do that? So the hint is we learned something just before learning for loop. Apply that with a combination of for loop, right? So you need to check if there are certain numbers that you want to reject, right? Let's add one more number to make things more clear. So I want to print 1, 3, 9, 11. So here, only changing here will not work. You need to do some other math. Do something with this guy as well. I already gave you a hint. Use some conditional stuff, right? Essentially, we're filtering out what 5 and 7. All right, and also another one. How about this one? This is also a tricky one. I want you to print 9, 7, 5, and 3. In this order, okay? It has to be start with 9, then 7, and then 5 and 3. This one you can just achieve by just changing this line. This one you have to add some logic inside here. Anyone? And I'm going to warn you, if you just use negative here, it's gonna go in infinite loop. So use it carefully. Right, just until let's say 4:55. Yeah, I think you guys can do this. Even if you can get closer to something like this. Remember, all you have to do is first always calculate things on paper, right? Think about this three things, right? In all of this. Remember, I always look at where do I want to start by looking at the number. I want to start at 1. I want to end at 11, right? And what step I take, right? Based on that. And then if I need to do something inside. So that I already have. I want to start from 9. I want to stop at 3, right? And what step do I take? All right, we'll just still wait 1 minute and just ping me your solution. Yeah, if you're having with a CodePen IO issue, then you're having an issue because you're going in an infinite loop. When you go in an infinite loop, it just bogs down you have to just close the CodePen and open it again. That if you're having an issue, that means you're having infinite loop. So, all right. So to understand let's understand first one, right? So I need to print 1, 3, 9, 11. I'm going to follow the same rule first. Start is 1. So let's do 1. Last is 11, right? So if I just manually write this, right? What's the distance between 1 and 3? It's 2. What's the distance between 3 and 9? So the distance here is, I'm just going to print the distance, right? So the distance is 2. Then distance between 3 and 9 is what? What? 3 and 9 is what? 6, right? Yeah. And the distance between 9 and 11 is what? 2, right? So usually the distance, if I had given you like 13, obviously you would know, okay, you have 2, 2. So it's a linear, they're all odd numbers, right? Which means, so all even numbers, which means my stepper I'm looking for is 2 here, right? So if I just print this without doing anything else, it should print, I have to comment this guy out as well. If I print this, then it's going to give me, 1 to 11. So it prints, okay, let me. Make some space here. Okay, so it's printing 1, 3, 5, 7. It's still printing, but I don't have 5, 7, and 9 and 11, right? If I want to do 13, obviously I can do 13, and it prints it. So how do I do that 5, 7? So I can have a logic. In this case, I can have a simple logic. I can say if I is not equal to 5, okay, or I is not equal to 7, then console log I. We learned on the first day this statements. This is called comparison operator. Okay, why is it printing? Oh. Hold on, what's the logic? If it's not equal to 5, end. Okay. Basically, it cannot be 5 and 7, right? So usually you would say end. So then this print this. So basically what is this saying is I not equal to, like equal to is 3 equal signs, right? Not equal to is put in exclamation and then 2 equal sign. And this is basically saying not equal to 5 and not equal to 7. Okay. So that's one. What about this guy, 9753? A lot of you gonna have infinite, your code pen stop working if you used it. Something, you know, when you try to do this, right? I'm sure. So let's do that. But this time we're gonna be doing this very carefully. So I need to start from 9, right? So let's just remove that logic first, this one in the between. I want to start at 9, which I did. Okay. I want to end at 3. Okay. Again, put it in this mode where it doesn't run. So I'll have to go to behavior and turn this off while you're typing. And if it starts running, and then you're going to have an issue. And then every time I do this, 9 to 7 is -2, 7 to 5 is -2, and 5 to 3 is -2. So I need -2 here, right? That's for sure. However, if you read this carefully, there's a one issue. So I can say start from 9, but go until I is less than 3. Oh, less than equal to 3. Okay. So what is it gonna do? Does it make sense? It's not equal to, it's not. So if I run this, what is it gonna do? Nothing. Because is I less than 3? No. I is starting from 9. So what I have to do is I greater than equal to 3, right? So initially I is gonna be 9. Is it greater than 3? Yes. So execute it. Then it's gonna be 7. Sorry. Is it greater than 3? Yes. 5. Is it greater than 3? Yes. 3 is greater than equal to 3? Yes. Then it's gonna go 1. At that point, it's gonna stop because it says, oh, it's no longer. So it's gonna stop, right? So when you go minus, you not only have to change this this here, but with the sign, you just need to reverse that less than to greater than 3. So you have to really think when you write those numbers, right? Okay. Any question on this one? So this cover all the scenarios for loop. You can, using this three things, you can pretty much build anything, any for loop, right? Positive, negative, skip something, you know, whatnot. All right. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna cover is, remember, for off and for in. So remember when we learned about the arrays? Let's look at an array. So I have an array. Let's say let nums equal to, let's say I have a number array, right? So the repeating things, I want to print these numbers. So one way to do it is just use a for loop to do that, right? Like we did. And the way it's going to be is for loop I equal to, remember index always starts from 0, right? Of an array. So I'm going to say this I is going to be an index, right? And I can say I is less than equal to, I would say less than, because index is always, the last index is less than the length, right? Then I would say nums dot length and I equal to I plus 1. Or if you want to have a shorthand, you can do I plus plus, exactly the same thing. Okay. And then I can say console log nums, and I just pass the index. So we are actually using the index 0 to index nums length less than length, right? Which is, because the index is what? So index of 1 is going to be 0, 2 is going to be 1, then 2, then 3 and 4, right? So index of 5 here is 4 actually, which is 1 less than the length, and the length is what, 5, right? So that's why you want to keep it less than the length, less than 5, which means 4. Okay, so make sure that you remember this. And if I run this, I would get all 5 values. But there is an easier syntax. Usually what I do is this. I don't need to do that. I don't need to count the length. I would just say for num of nums. This is easy, which says, give me each number of the nums array. And this, I can make this up, anything. I can say I or whatever, right? I'm just gonna call it num. Okay, and then I'm just gonna say console log num. This also does give you the same thing. Yeah, exactly the same thing. It's much simpler syntax. You're basically saying, I have 5 candies. Give me each candy of candies, right? And then I take each candy and print it. Any question on this one? Try this out. It's pretty simple, the syntax. I can even call this x of nums, but I have to use x here, right? So this is a variable. Nums is nothing but the array, right? Oh, sorry. This is not the index. My bad. This is a value. Thank you. This is the value. In this case, it's the index. This I is index. That's why we're starting from 0. This is basically saying, give me each number of nums. So this X is not an index. This I is an index, because you see we are actually passing this index and grabbing the value from here, right? This is simply saying that grab each value from here, which means I'm grabbing 1, 2, 3. So X is never going to be 0. Okay, it's grabbing the value. So let's say if this array was not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think let's say if it's 34, 54, 12, and 100, right? Some weird values. Then each, so what will happen is says X of num, or let's call it num of num, which makes more sense, right? Now that we understand, which means each number of the array. And the first number is going to be 34. So num's going to be 34, and it's going to print the next number is going to be 54, and so on and so forth. So we're not grabbing the index, we're grabbing the value itself, right? That's why it's much cleaner. In this case, we are grabbing the index and then passing the index here to grab the value. Okay, a lot of times you just need the value. You don't need the index. But if you need index, there's actually another syntax, which I'm not going to go into it. But if you need index and value both, you just use this. But if you just need a value, just use this. Okay. And if you want to grab index, right, you can also do this. It's a simpler, let's say, let I equal to 0. So I started index with 0. And then what I'm going to do every time it goes in the loop, after this, after it prints, it says I equal to I plus 1, or simpler syntax would be I plus plus. Right? So if I, let's say if I print I, num and I both together, then 34, the index is 0. So the I is the index right now, and then it increments with it. You can do this as well if you want index and a number together, right? Or just use this. So it's another trick. Okay. What if it's an object where there is no index? Let's take an object, right? Okay. Let's say profile is an object, right? Remember we had what we had. We had a name, which is John, right? Let's say I have an age, which was like 45. Then hobby was it, right? Hobby was swimming, I don't know, dancing, and games, something like that, right? And then it's gonna have children. Children, it's gonna be, that's an object. Well, sorry, not object. Children, it's gonna be an array. And then within that array, you're gonna have an object. Let's say the first child is, we looked at last time, right? The first child name is, let's say, Judy. Her age is 25. That makes sense. He's 45. Yeah, sure. And then I can have another child, Peter, and he's 20. Okay. All right. So let's look at this object. I'm going to format this so it looks nicer. Okay. Now, this is our playground. Um, if I wanna print all the, so there are two things, right? Objects, as we know, don't have indexes, which means I cannot just say, give me the first index of this, right? There's no index. It has keys and values. So the first key is name, value is John. Key is age, value is 45. Key is hobby, value is an array. Key is children, value is an array that has objects inside, right? If I want to just simply print all the keys, there is a similar syntax for keys, key in profile. Okay, for key in profile, console log key. Let's run this. Remember, for arrays, we say, value, or what was that? Num of nums, right? We use of keyword. Here we use in keyword. Okay, that's the difference between array and object. So it gives me all the indexes. I mean, all the, not indexes, my bad, keys. So name is a key, age is a key, hobby is a key, and children is a key. Okay. Now, what if I want to print all the hobbies of this profile? How do I do that? I don't want to print okay, another thing, let me show you. So if I want to get the value, so this is the key, right? Let's call it key. If I want to get the value, then all I have to do is profile square bracket, and I pass the key. This will give me each value, just in case if you didn't know. Right? So it starts with John 45. This gives me all the values, right? Now that you know how it works, just print swimming, dancing, and games here using combination of for loops, right? Obviously, you have to iterate through first to find the key, right key, and use IfElse statement to find which key has an array, right? And then print all the hobbies. Any question on this one? So I just want to print hobbies of this of John. Just list all the hobbies using some sort of for loop. You may have to create a variable where you save the hobbies in a variable, and then if you have to do multiple steps, that's fine. Just if you want to do one step, it's fine as well. Now you know how to print every value of an array. And now you know how to print every key of the array and every value of an array, right? Or sorry, key of an object and value associated with that key of an object, right? I think this opens up to a lot of different possibilities. We're gonna do a couple of interesting exercises using this. I think once you master this, once you can iterate through an object, once you can iterate through an array, and you can manipulate things inside, that gives you a lot of power to pretty much do anything with, when you build games, you have to probably do that kind of operations. See, React gives you structure to build stuff, right? But internally, you still have to deal with the JavaScript part where you may have some state that you want to modify it and things like that. This is where you're going to have to do this. And then message me if you once you have a solution. Just message me the solution, right? Yeah, just copy paste the solution in the chat. Anyone? Let's take another few minutes, like 5:22. Simplest solution is the best solution, right? If I want to achieve something, I don't never get stuck, in what I'm looking for. Try to get closer to your solution, right? That was a problem when I was growing up, right? When I try to solve any problem, I usually get stuck onto that problem. I'm looking for this, right? Rather than trying to reach that location, right? I may or may not able to get to the solution, but if I can get closer, and then okay, now I need to. The last step would be like getting from this step to this step, right? So when you try to solve this, right, I would say, okay, how do I iterate through this? So I already gave you the solution. This is how you iterate through this, right? So you will have, I can get John, I can get 45, I can get this array, right? But I need to reject everything else. I only want hobby, right? So we have the if and else statement. So utilize that to get that, make sure that you reject everything else, only use hobby. And then you can save this array into a variable, right? And then we just learn how to iterate through an array. So use that to do that. So now that I've given you a solution, take a few minutes just to solve this. Computer science, it's all about, approach. You take an approach, you guess something. If you think a problem as a whole, you will never be able to solve it. you break it down into smaller pieces. How can I get to hobby? How can I do this? And then print it, see if it does what you want it to do. Then take the next step, and then ultimately you will reach a destination. In your spare time, build objects like this that are complex in nature, where you have object inside of an array, inside of an object. It's kind of mix of all of that. And then try to, last week I gave you homework to access, update, delete, and all that stuff, right? This is another step. I traded through it, right? Okay, so let's look at the solution. Unless somebody's still working on it and close, then I'll wait. Okay, somebody got it. Please do print, send me a solution. Okay. All right, so the way to do it is, there are a couple of ways to do it. And as I said, just do a baby step. The first thing, if I want to get the hobby, right, I may not even need to do this. I'm just going to comment this out. I can simply say, let's say, if I do console log and profile.hobby, remember, I don't need to iterate through. I can just directly access hobby, right? Because objects let me do that. And I get hobby, right? So if I save this in a variable, let's say let hobbies equal to this. I saved in a variable, then I would write a for loop. Let's say let hobby of hobbies. I created this variable called hobby of hobbies. Console log hobby. Right? Or I can just do it in one line. If I just put this in here, that would be a one line. All right. Any question on here? So first, because it's an object, I can just provide key, right? So profile.key, which is hobby, that gives me direct access to here. I don't even have to iterate through it, right? I get direct access to it. Then I save it into a variable called hobbies, which is nothing but the array, right? And then I use it off, because it's an array with indexes, I can just use this hobby of hobbies, which gives you each value directly. So it will give me swimming, dancing, and games in this variable hobby, which I print directly, and I get this, right? Okay. Any question on this one? I may give you some homework around this concept, but to summarize it, if I want to iterate to an array, I would use something of something array, right? With each item of this array, which gives me the access to the item directly. If I want to iterate to an object like this, objects have keys and values, so I get access to keys. So it's a key in profile, which will give me each key one by one. And if I need, once I have the key, I can just pass that into the object like this, and I get the value out, right? Make sure that you type the solution and then copy paste into some document. Like, I usually open a Google Doc and I just dump it into it so that next time, if I want to look at a reference, I can quickly look at it, right? Okay, before we move forward, any question on this one? All right, so far we covered if-else statements, for loops, and for off and for in loops. Okay. Clean this up. All right. We have half hour. We'll do one more topic. We'll get started on functions, right? That's what, as we say, we'll get started a little bit on functions, but we'll finish it next time because function has a lot of, function is also one of the core things that you're going to learn in JavaScript. You're going to be using a lot of functions. So what is a function? Think of your life, right? Anything that you repeat daily basis, or remember I said my teacher said, say sorry 1,000 times. But that's just a one step. But there may be some, my teacher, let's say, said, go out, touch the tree. If your teacher is really cruel, says go out of the class, touch that tree, and then crawl back here, right? Crawl back to the class, and then write, I am sorry. Then go out, touch the tree, crawl back into the class, and then write, I am sorry. So you have 3 steps, right? So let's write that. And how would it work? I'm just going to write like a console log instead of each step, because obviously we can run in JavaScript. So first thing would be, let's say step 1 in this punishment stage is go out and touch the tree. There's some tree outside somewhere far away, right? So you have to go out and maybe run to it and then touch it. And then step 2 is not run, you crawl. Crawl back to the classroom. Then step 3 is, write, I'm sorry. Right? If I were to do this, how would I do that, right? So remember the for loop, and you need to do this 1,000 times, let's say. So we had a for loop, right? We had a for loop where we say, let I equal to 0, I less than 1,000, I plus plus, right? And then I'm gonna console log each step, right? Console log is go to the tree, or I can say going to the tree. Going or touch the tree. Let's just say touch the tree. Touching the tree, because this is actually an action. touching the tree, then you crawl back to the class. I did have a teacher who was very cruel. And that's why I'm good at what I am. I don't know if it really works. Crawling back to the class. So, writing. Sorry. Okay. If I did this, well, I should not say 1,000 times, otherwise it's going to be too many. But let's just say 5 times, for example. Right? Then it does the same thing over and over. Okay. Okay. It's all good. But the thing is, if I want to make some modification, right? This becomes too fixed, first of all. If I want to make some modification to this one, it becomes difficult, or I have to use a lot of if-else statement, and I have to do all that kind of stuff, right? All I can do is just write the same thing over, 5 times. So this is where, if there something that you are doing together, you can create a function, and a function would allow to modify its behavior through its parameter. So let's understand how it really works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function. And the way it works is there's a keyword called function. And I'm going to name this function punishment. Okay. And this is a punishment. All right. And then I'm going to save everything that I have here. I'm going to put it in here. Let's remove this thing. Okay. So this is a function, which means if I want to do all of these, I just have to call the name of the function and then a parenthesis. This means it's going to do all of these in sequence. Okay. 5 times. It's almost the same thing as we did before. This time it's a separate function. What this does is, usually when you write a lot of code, your code would keep increasing, right? And at some point it becomes unreadable. I mean, right now we just write a few lines of code, not a big deal. But imagine your iPhone, for example, right? This phone has probably millions of lines of code. Okay, if this a file had a million lines and somebody say, hey, can you fix this? How are you gonna fix it, right? How do you find which line has an issue? You have to scroll millions. It's not efficient, right? So you need to break your code into smaller pieces. So this allows you to do that. I can have a separate file where I can store all the punishments, and I can use it here by some way of managing to importing it, right? That's one idea. The second thing is I can customize this punishment. Okay, I can say, instead of touching the tree, let's there's a touching. I'm going to call it a thing. Okay, instead of touching a tree, you touch. Let's say go touch a rock that is outside, right? So what I'll do, touch the thing, and this thing could be anything. Okay, so now if let's remove it from here for now, and we're just gonna play around with it, right? So if I call this punishment, by calling punishment. And then if I pass tree, what is it's gonna substitute this thing as tree, and this is gonna be tree. So it's gonna say touching the tree and all that stuff, right? And it says tree. I can change this to a rock. And when I run it, it actually builds the punishment with substituting the first one with rock, right? So now I have flexibility. I don't have to create different kind of punishments. I can customize this. You know, if I'm a really cruel teacher and I wanted to just have one set of punishment, but I am some way to customize it. This is a way to do that, right? Instead of, let's say, for some students, they have an issue with their crawling, right? I can change this to I don't know, method or something, right? And I can say method plus back to the class. And then what I'll do is, remember, this this is called parameters or arguments of a function. And it should reflect exactly. So if I want to pass thing to a rock, this will be my first argument. If I want to pass, let's say, walking in here, right? This is my second argument. So thing's going to be substituted by rock and method is going to substitute by walking, right? So if I run this, I can create a punishment where it says touching the rock, walking back to the class, and writing I'm sorry. And if I change this to crawling, right, then it's gonna, you know. So now I have, with using this arguments, I can create many different permutations, and there's no limit to how many arguments can I have, right? So this gives me power to change, you know, simple sets of instruction into many different sets, many different combination of instructions. All I just have to change is this to, or if I have multiple of these, then I have to change multiple of these. Okay. I wanted to give this a simple example so that you understand why functions are needed, right? It gives you so much flexibility to do a lot of different things, right? Based on a situation. Functions are also important for like a mathematical solutions, right? So think of, I can create a function called add, and add takes two arguments, right? Number 1 and number 2. And what does it do? It return, and inside it would add two numbers. So I can say let total equal to n1 plus n2, right? This function would do a little more than just printing, right? So there's something called return. So what this does is this. I can pass any numbers here, like 2 or 3, and then it will take those 2 and 3 and then add. The total is going to be 5, and then returns it, right? This is the most important part of a function. You know, it takes some argument and returns something. It's almost like it's transforming, right? I pass 2 numbers, and I get a total, and this box is transformed this 2 number into a total. Think of that way, right? So if I want to use it, if I say console log, or let's say, let's do a let result equal to add 1 and 2. So you pass this to numbers and it returns, and it's the result is going to be saved to whatever return it is. It's going to save to into the result. And if I console log this will be 3, right? So I look at a function as a black box that has certain functionality. It takes something inside and returns something. Okay. If I want to build a burger, for example, okay, let's build a burger. Sandwich. Let's build a burger. Okay, burger would take what? You know, it will take tomatoes, onions, whatever, like meat and bread, let's say, right? I mean, you can have more stuff, but it just says 3 things, right? And what it will do is, obviously, we cannot build a burger in coding, right? We could if there's like a visual elements, but here there are no visual elements. So we are returning this, right? Tomato plus meat plus, right? So it takes, and then it takes 3 things and then returns 1 thing, right? It's almost like a transforming, morphing into something new, right? That's what it happens. Obviously, you would not write it like this. You would just say ingredient 1, ingredient 2, right? And ingredient 3. And then you just say, you know, ingredient 1 plus ingredient 2 plus ingredient 3. Okay. And so when I build it, I can pass any ingredients, right? Right. So I don't really have to, you know, and something like that, right? And this returns me a burger, right? Obviously, building burger process is more kind of complex, but just to give you an idea, right? It takes something and returns something. So I can say, let burger equal to this. Actually, I can print it how it looks like. It's going to be not delicious, but you know, let's see how it prints. Unexpected identifier. What did we do here? Oh yeah, thank you. Half of my errors are I don't pay attention to spellings. Right, so it builds tomato, onion, buns all smushed together. Okay, so this is what I get, right? But obviously you got the concept. I entered 3 things, it gave me 1 thing back, right? So this is the concept of function. Function takes some arguments, X number of arguments, and inside it does something. Sometimes it returns it, sometimes it doesn't, right? Or well, it always returns something. Otherwise, if you don't return it, it returns undefined. So if let's say if I don't do this, and nothing is happening, it will return undefined, right? But so you don't always have to return something. Remember last time we wrote the function, we just had some console logs, right? That right, sorry, and all that. We didn't return anything, but in this case, we're returning. So there are multiple cases where sometimes you return, sometimes you don't. Depends what you want to do, right? Let's do a little exercise. So what can we do here? Let's write a function that returns sum of first two numbers and multiplied by the last number. Or argument, last argument, with sum of two numbers, right? So it takes three arguments, right? And you name function whatever you want to name it, but it takes three arguments. So let's say if I create a function called x, y, z, okay, you can name it whatever you want, or calculate or whatever. It's going to take three numbers, right? And it will basically sum first two. So 1 plus 2 is going to be 3. And it's going to multiply this by the last number. So it's going to return 9 in this case, right? So your test case is returns 9. If you pass exactly these three numbers, it should return 9. Functions are fun. And also one of the most important things. So far, we learned, today's stuff is pretty important. If-else statement, for loops, and functions. They are the backbone of pretty much any programming language. These are basic stuff that you need to learn, right? And then there'll be like a complex stuff, object-oriented programming, functional programming, and all other concepts, right? But if you can do this three, you have a good command over the language. When people try to understand programming language, they get really afraid by just looking at the code, right? As I said, coding is about breaking down a larger problem into a simpler problem, and then solve it. Okay. Before we leave today, I'm gonna give you a simple example of how you can do that. We have about 10 minutes, so let's spend 5 minutes on this one, and then I'll give you another interesting example, which you can use just everything that we learned today to solve that problem. Even if you can't do it, if you get closer, I'll be happy. And remember the function syntax, again, if those who were not paying attention, which, sometimes, people are, like, I'm even when I take class, I'm not always paying attention. So if I miss some syntax, so let's say function xyz is the name of the function, then you can have some arguments, argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, and it returns something, right? T something, I don't know. You decide what is going to be returned here. Just focus on this thing, right? You need to return 9 if I pass 1, 2, 3. How do I do that? Pay attention to that example, add. It's similar to that. All right. We have 5 minutes remaining, and I need to ask you one more question. I just do this. If I have these 3 arguments, right? All I have to do is return argument 1 plus argument 2 multiplied by argument 3, right? And so let's say result equal to x, y, z. This I'm going to pass 1, 2, and 3, right? And if I console log this result, it should be 9. If I say 3, 3, 3, which means 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 6 multiplied by 3 is 27. Oh, sorry, 18. Right. So you get 18. Obviously, this is not really function. I would make it more readable, right? I can call it calculate number 1, number 2, number 3, and then change it accordingly, right? This is the right way to do. Number 3, and then number 1, 2, 3, right? This makes much more sense. It's cleaner. All right. Since we have like a few minutes, think about it this way, and I may give you some homework on this one. If I was given an array, a bunch of numbers, okay? Let's say 1, 2, something like this, right? I have an array, and I want to have a total of all the numbers, sum of all the numbers. Find sum of all the numbers, right? You have to use a for loop. You can use a function as well, or just for loops, doesn't matter, right? If I were to use a function and um, multiple ways to do it, right? I can have a function that takes an array and returns the total. You can do that way, or many different ways you can do that. So that's the one example. I can say find the biggest number in this array, right? Where you have to do some calculations, right? So I'll give you those two exercises, where you add all the values of an array, and the second would be find the biggest number in an array. Okay, so that gives you like if else, for loop, and all of that, right? And I can give you an object. Within that, there may be an array as one of the values, and then you have to do the same thing. Okay. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. I'm going to send you the homework. And any other question on this one? All right. Make sure you practice enough. If you need any more example, I can provide it to you, so you can play around with it. Watch the video if you miss something, right? But I think these three things are the foundation of any programming language, right? For loops, if else, and functions. If you know these three things, you can pretty much do all the operation within a programming language. Obviously, there's some high level stuff that you haven't covered, but this is the bread and butter of programming languages. So make sure that you practice and get good command over it. Okay. I think that's it. I'll see you next time. And then next time we'll cover, let's see where we are here, syllabus, right? We will cover detail about the functions, like functions, different ways to create functions, callback functions. And then there are some important stuff specifically for React, which is called map, reduce, and filter. Okay, so we're gonna focus on that. Any last question before we leave? All right. Okay, then I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.